Hey, what's up, creatives? You're listening to the Created to Be Creative podcast, and I have something that's going to help you guys out a little bit better. We're talking about being creative and in the kingdom. So I have a Christian clothing brand here today. The Neighborhood is the name of the brand, if you've heard of it. It's by the Crutes. It's both of y'all, you and your wife, correct?
Yeah, we're one. We're one. So she gets a piece of it too.
If she get a hunk of it. Kendall, can you please tell everybody who you are, what you do, and just go from there?
Yeah. So I'm Kendall. I'm just a creative at the end of the day. I like to kind of put myself in that arena, in that area. I like being creative in multiple different ways, different facets, but clothing just happened to be one of the ways that I express myself. So I'm also a creative director at my church. Me and my wife, we serve together at her parents' church, Worship with Wonders Church in Marietta. She's the worship and arts director, and we love it. We love what we do. So I'm excited to be on the podcast today.
Most definitely. Any kids?
No, no kids yet. Eventually, but no kids yet.
Yeah. So as a creative director, do you just do everything like media, cameras, and all?
Yeah, so it's all kind of all encompassing. It has production into it, graphic design is a part of it, videography and video editing is a part of it. So all of those things are all entail. And so some of it goes into stage design as well and set design. I don't necessarily do like the arts and craft part of it, but my wife is actually she's really good at this stuff too. So she's always with me. She's like, hey, this would be dope or this would be cool too. So it's all encompassing all those things.
That's what's up. So if you could just tell us a little bit about Neighborhood, where did it come from? Like what made you start it and everything like that?
Yeah, for sure. So I originally had another brand. It was called Godly. And so I started that brand like 2015 or so, somewhere around there. And so I kind of went through that. And that was like my first learning process of ever having a brand. I never thought in my life that I would have a brand. I played sports growing up. So I always thought that that was going to be my path. So creativity, fashion, all that stuff really wasn't in the mix for me. But I had a brand called Godly. And so over the years, some things happened and another brand came out named Godly as well. And it started blowing up. It got posted on the Shade Room and everything like that. So I didn't really want to compete with another brand. I wanted mine to be unique and I wanted to be something that stood alone. And so I started thinking through what kind of brand I wanted. And I really want a brand that has a community aspect to it. I want a brand that people can feel like they're a part of something bigger and it's more than just clothing and just fashion, but you feel like you're a part of the of a community. And so the first thing that came to my mind is I grew up in different neighborhoods with different demographics, different cultures, and different things going on in it. And I was like, man, like I remember those were some of the best times of my life, was living in a neighborhood, being around a bunch of people that I did not know, but eventually they became like family to me. And so that's what I wanted the brand to be about. So I called it the neighborhood, and I just ran with it from there.
So how did you go about like picking out? Cause like I saw you kind of change like how you write Neighborhood on it. Like what made you change it? Like what made you switch it up a little bit?
Oh man, I don't know. I think honestly, just aesthetic. It just spoke to me. I remember just going through a whole bunch of different fonts and just trying to figure out, because I also wanted to have a certain look and a certain feel to it as well. Because it's definitely more of like a luxury kind of feel, especially with the pieces and even like the attention to detail with the branding and the inside labels and all those different things. So I was really wanting to have a logo that really stood out, and I feel like kind of communicated all that to people just from looking at the logo. So I just went through a whole bunch of logos and I found the one that I landed on, and I was like, yeah, I feel like that communicates what I want. So that's how it came to be.
So like how do you create that and create it with the kingdom as well? How did you go about partnering with God with that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think so even bigger vision than just clothing, just for myself personally, is I really want to have something for Christian creatives. I feel like just culture nowadays, for Christian creatives, you either have to kind of dumb down your convictions or kind of hide some parts of yourself in order to be a part of something. And so I really wanted to create a space also with the neighborhood and just future vision for things where Christian creatives can be fully themselves with their convictions, with their beliefs, and not feel like I have to dumb down this part because culture isn't going to like it, or they're not going to accept it, or they're going to think that I'm judgmental because I believe this way. Um, And so that, I believe, is where like the partnering with God came into it too. So even now, I'm working with two people are on the neighborhood team that are Christians, they're believers. And so I really kind of look for that too. Not saying that you have to be a believer to be a part of the team, but I do want to have something where Christian creatives and believers can come in and be a part of and be uniquely themselves and have people with them that believe like them, that have the same convictions and values as them, and they don't have to hide or be ashamed or dumb down their faith for the sake of trying to get into a circle or be a part of something.
Most definitely. And if you can tell them, like, when you first started out, finding like the clothing and the quality, because you had to figure out like, hey, I don't want to be just
Yeah.
no little t-shirt brand. I want to be a high-end Christian brand. I feel like we have a lot of Christian logo shirts, but we don't
Mhm.
have a lot of like luxury, like
Yeah.
you little luxury. So how do we find product? Like, what is the best way to execute and know what you want? Like, what's your avatar? Like, who are your community that you wanted to reach, and how can they find their community that they want to reach?
Yeah. So the people that I want to reach, honestly, I want to try to reach as many people as possible. I think for me too, another aspect of the neighborhood is that, and even just the vision behind it, is that not everybody is going to believe like you or think like you or have the same values as you. And so I still want people who aren't necessarily believers to still look at it and be like, oh snap, like that's really, really dope. I really want to be a part of that. And so even if they don't necessarily think or see that it's a Christian clothing brand, I really think of like Jerry Lorenzo and Fear of God,
Yeah.
how Fear of God, people don't necessarily look at it as a Christian clothing brand. And I don't even think Jerry Lorenzo would define it as that, but the person behind it and who's designing it, they are a believer. And so that's how I kind of stepped into the neighborhood, is that I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to have Jesus on it, but the spirit behind it has the spirit of the Lord behind it. And so people are going to feel that one way or the other. And so even if it leads them to discovering more and trying to go deeper into like, okay, who's behind the brand? And I'm not going to change who I am. My faith is very dear to me, and that's something I'm never going to compromise on. And that's something I even told the people on the team when I brought them on, is like, the biggest thing for us at the end of the day, no matter how big this brand scales or if it doesn't scale at all, the biggest thing is that our faith stays intact. And that if I had to choose between this brand becoming something incredible or being able to keep my faith genuine, I'm going to pick my faith all day, every day. And so I think with that being the heart behind it and that being my conviction behind it, I think inevitably people are going to feel that spirit. They're gonna get me. They're gonna get who I am, and my belief and my faith is a part of who I am. So I think regardless of what's on the shirt or what pieces are created, at the end of the day, they're getting a piece of me and my faith.
That's good. So let's talk real quick about your faith. How did you find the faith of Christ real quick? If you could just
Oh man. So my wife, yeah. So my wife, she got me into church. Growing up, my parents, when they were together, we were at church every Sunday. My parents actually moved down here to help my uncle start a church. But after they split, I stopped going to church so often. We would go on like Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. So a lot of searching, a lot of soul searching, a lot of trying to find my way. I really put a lot of stake and value into sports with basketball and everything like that. But I ended up getting diagnosed with lung cancer when I was 17 years old. And I remember being in the hospital bed, and I gave my life to Christ on the hospital bed. I had a chest tube coming out the side of my stomach, trying to drain all the fluid and all the blood. And I was just miserable. I was in so much pain. My dad was actually in the hospital room with me. And I remember just tears streaming down my face at 17, being like, Lord, like, whatever you want to do in my life from this point forward, you can do it, because I've done it my way and I'm still miserable. I'm still depressed. I'm still insecure. I'm still full of anxiety and uncertainty. So whatever you want to do in my life, you can do it. You can do it. So fast forward a little bit past that, I get out of the hospital, and literally like 2 weeks later, I end up meeting my now wife. She messages me on Twitter, back when Twitter was really popping. So she DM'd me on Twitter, and we exchanged numbers and we started talking. Was not expecting our relationship to go the way that it is now, because she was 15 at the time, I was 17. And we really just hit it off, and she invited me to her church. And I didn't go that week, but I went the following week with my brother, and I fell in love with it. It's a spirit-filled church. full movement of the Holy Spirit, and I loved it. I was like, yo, what is this? I want this. Whatever this is, I want it. So that's how I got connected. I got plugged into her parents' church and been there ever since, and I love it.
How was it meeting her parents? You weren't scared?
Oh man, I think there's always like some nerves or some anxiety meeting parents. I ended up meeting her parents, and especially the age gap too, like
Yeah.
15 and 17, and I was getting ready to turn 18 at the time as well. So I think there's always some nerves and anxiety meeting parents, but her parents are so gracious, and they're awesome people. Like
Yeah.
I literally call them my parents, and there's a lot more to that too. With me leaving school and coming home, and they really helped me just in life in general, especially her dad, her mom as well. But her dad really poured into me and really spent time with me, even outside of, this is my daughter's boyfriend, now husband, even outside of that, but just seeing value in me as a person. Her mom too, they both saw value in me as a person and said, hey, you're worth investing into, you're worth loving, you're also worth correcting, because we see greatness on the inside of you. So
That's
the
good.
initial meeting, a little nerve-wracking, but after that, man, they're like my second parents.
Yeah, you like family now. Well,
For
you are
sure.
family now.
For sure. I'm in there.
Good. So like the fashion thing, I see, because like I saw like your wife and even Pastor Miles, y'all done got him a little bit out there with the fashion. How did you go about like just adjusting everything like with the fashion world and not being afraid to like say like this don't have to be this. Let's change it up a little bit. What is your viewpoint on fashion in a sense?
Yeah, so I think fashion is unique. I think it's all subjective. I think it's really in the eye of the beholder, to where I think all creativity too. I think fashion is just an aspect of it, but whatever you like, whatever makes you feel good, like go for it. Because you look at a whole bunch of different brands, and each brand has its own demographic and its own culture around it. Like people who wear Supreme don't necessarily wear like Balenciaga, and people who wear Balenciaga don't necessarily wear things like Supreme. And so all of those things, there's always a certain culture and there's always a certain group. And so fashion is unique, and you get to just have fun with it. You get to just be yourself. And if you like patterns, wear patterns. If you like kind of like a monochromatic kind of look, go with that. Like even Fear of God's look, where it's more of like the neutrals and it's more simple tones, compared to something along the lines of like an off-white, where it had more vibrant, more eclectic type of things. It reaches and speaks to different people. So even getting into that space, there was nerves like, okay, do I really have anything to offer when it comes to this? Because there's a lot of people trying to do it, and a lot of people are good at it. But like, do I have something to offer? And the answer is yes. I may not reach millions of people, even though I pray that it does, but that may not be who I'm called to, but it's called to somebody in some shape or form. Um, so that's what really encourages me to stay with it, and to continue doing what I'm doing.
That's good. That's good. Now, how do you come up with different concepts to like put on like the shirts and stuff?
Oh man, so life really speaks to me. I'm one of those people where I will literally draw inspiration from any and everything. My wife was literally in the bed 2 nights ago, and she was watching Bring It On with Gabrielle Union.
That's
She was
just
literally watching Bring It On, and I'm just like halfway watching it, and all of a sudden this T-shirt, like this design, kind of goes across the screen, like it's an extra. It's not even a main focal point of the movie. And I'm like, stop. I was like, hold on, where's the remote? And I literally rewind the movie, pause it, and take a picture of what I just saw. And I'm like, yo, this is dope. And so I literally see a lot of different things. And I always think, okay, I feel like I can take that and take bits and pieces of a lot of different things and kind of mesh them and mold them into a vision that I have. So concepts come from all types of places. It can come from Bring It On. It can come from my childhood. It can come from a TV show, a movie, or literally from somebody walking down the street and I feel like they have something super dope on that they don't even realize. So inspiration from me, I try to draw it from all avenues and all different aspects of life.
Yeah, that's good. So you don't just take it from the Bible, like, listen now, love
No, I
your neighbor
don't.
as you should.
No, I mean, the saved answer would be yes, but I really
It's
don't.
the saved
Because
answer.
at the end of the day, like the Bible talks about that we see the unseen attributes of God through what He's created.
That's
And
good.
so honestly, all of creation speaks to the Creator. So everything that we see, everything that's here, it all points back to God regardless. And so I think being able to look at everything that he has created, and pull inspiration from it, you're still pulling inspiration from the Lord regardless.
Definitely. So what was your hardest thing to sell? When you came up with design, you was like, dang, why ain't nobody rocking with this? Like, what was it?
Man, the hardest thing to sell, I would probably say I had this Carhartt jacket, that I absolutely love. I think it's super, super dope. And honestly, even when I made it, I really kind of made it personally. I made it selfishly. Um, but I thought, like, maybe people will rock with this. So it was like it's a Carhartt jacket, and it says the neighborhood really big on the back. And then on the collar, it says building dreams brick by brick. But I think a lot of things kind of went into it not selling. I think it was like super, super rushed as far as like me trying to get it out and everything like that. I really learned like the importance of patience, and also learned the importance of like planning and excellence, and realizing that you need to have a plan. You need to know what you're doing, when you're going to do it, especially when you're starting out. For these bigger brands, they can literally drop something today and it's going to sell out, but it's because they've reached that level of influence. And so for me and my level of influence right now, I have to be really methodical, and I really have to think things out and let people see what is coming, so that they can be excited about it, and they can see, okay, this brand, they really pay attention to detail, because we really haven't built that trust with people yet. We really haven't built that trust with the community we're trying to build. So until we get to that point, I realize that you really have to be methodical. You really have to think things through. You have to really operate in excellence, and you really have to think ahead and really have vision for the future before you can just throw stuff out and pray and hope that people buy it.
That's good. That's good. So let me ask you this real quick now. Go through the whole thing of for people who want to start a clothing brand, right? They probably
Yeah.
say, oh, I have a great idea. I want to start a Christian clothing brand. Tell them, give them like 5 good steps of getting them started real quick.
Oh man, 5 good steps. So number one, I would definitely say start with your why. That was something that was really big for me, is why do you want to have a brand more than anything? Because at the end of the day, there's so many ebbs and flows to this thing. There's times where stuff will sell out. And then there's times like with the Carhartt jacket where you'll post it and you get like 3 likes on your page and nobody's buying it. And you're like, man, what is going on? But at the end of the day, your why behind why you are doing this is really what's going to keep you pushing and keep you moving. If it's about money, and if it's about influence, and if it's about trying to get attention and glory, you're going to be sadly mistaken, and you'll probably burn out really, really quickly. But having your why, I would say that's the most important step. Number two, I would say try to figure out who you want to reach. What kind of people are you targeting? If you want your clothing to be geared more towards millennial Christians, then go for that and really speak to that generation. If you want it to be something that's more all-encompassing and people from young to old can wear it, then go for that, and figure out how you're going to do that. But really figure out who you want to target and who you want to reach. Thirdly, I would then get into your voice, your style, your designs. What is your style? Are you more of a typography kind of person where you just want wording on it? Or are you more of a graphic person where you like to have very eccentric things on there with taking elements from Photoshop and Illustrator and tying things together and using symbolism with doves and fire and all those different types of things? I would say that's finding your voice and your style of design would be another really big point, too. And then fourth, I would say really, after finding your voice and your style, I would honestly say then probably get into how you're going to market it, your aesthetic, your look, your feel. As far as Instagram and marketing goes, different people have different feels. A really big look right now is kind of like the vintage flash photography, film camera type of vibe. That's really big right now. But for some people, you may like a really professional kind of aesthetic, where like Fear of God, they go into photo studios and they take these really, really nice photos. And then you have different brands. I think of like Collected ATL, that's a local brand. They use more of like iPhone photography and flash photography and things like that. So really figure out your style too, as far as your marketing goes as well. And then number 5, be consistent, like just stick with it. Again, there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be times where things are going great and you're going to think that you have it all figured out. And then there's also going to be times where things aren't going well and you're like, I want to quit and I want to give up. But consistency, I realize that consistency is probably the biggest thing when starting anything, is really sticking with it, pushing through the hard times, and then also celebrating the moments where you feel like you've reached your mountaintop as well.
That's good. That's good. Now, if you could go ahead and tell us real quick, just one more thing.
Oh, you're good.
One
I'm enjoying this. I love it. I love it.
How
Great.
how did you go about picking out colors? Because I see you have like your own little scheme, like
Yeah.
everything is kind of fluctuating the same, like news and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you go about saying, all right, I don't want to do no blues, but I'll throw it in there every once in a while. I want to keep myself with the news. How did you go about finding your color scheme?
So it's funny you say that because I'm actually changing it up for the spring and summer. I think I'm gonna go into some more like some different colors. But again, I think it at the time it's just what spoke to me. I really enjoy neutrals. For me, I really enjoy stuff that you can wear with just about anything. I like having solid pieces that I know, okay, if I don't know what to wear, I can throw that on and I can put just about anything with it and it's gonna look good. Also, my wife is a proponent of that too, because she's the same way. She loves her neutrals. She
Yeah.
loves creams and browns and all that stuff. But I think in that time as well, that is what was really speaking to me was that color scheme. And but now, like I think you can see in the back, like I have some yellow shorts back here that I'm getting sampled, and like I have blue is like a really big color for me right now. I'm really vibing with blue, and then I'm also vibing with like this pine green
Mhm.
color back here as well. So just different things just speak to me at different times. And so in that time, it was really the neutrals, but now like a lot more color is really starting to speak to me. So we'll see what comes out of it.
Now, do you like draw your like designs out how you wanted to do, or you just go ahead and do the like graphic real quick?
So I go into Photoshop. I really can't draw too well. Like if I needed to, I could probably make it look somewhat decent. But typically, I just go straight into Photoshop and I'll start designing whatever I'm seeing in my head. My mind is like its ideas just float around it.
Are
I
you
think I would be most afraid for people to have access to my brain more than
why is
anything.
that?
I have so I'm one of those people that like when I'm in a room, I'm there, but I'm not there
Yeah.
because my mind is constantly just thinking about so many different things. Like again, going back to drawing inspiration from all things. And so with drawing inspiration from all things, it's also being aware of everything and just being very observant of everything that's going on. We have this guy at our church. He's an older saint, Brother Lloyd, and he comes in there. He only thrifts his clothes. Like he only goes to the thrift store, and that's all he does. And he just has like this really, really just cool vibe about him. Like literally, I want him to model some of my pieces whenever I find the right pieces for him. But I'm like looking at him, seeing what he has on, and then I'm looking at different things like my wife, what she's wearing, or my mother-in-law, or my father-in-law, or even what their aesthetic, what they like, or they'll be like, hey, I remember when this was big back when we were growing up. And so I'll look at those things, and I'm just constantly looking at a whole bunch of different things. Even if we're out at dinner, if we're driving down the street, I'll be looking at posters and uh paint on cars. Like I'm looking at everything, just looking and seeing like what's speaking, what do I like, what am I looking at that's like speaking to me and giving me life.
Yeah, that's good. So what do you think is to come for 2022 for you and for creatives?
So for us, one thing I really hope that there begins to be like a subculture for Christian creatives. Again, going back to having a group in a community of people where you don't have to dumb down your convictions and your faith to be a part of something great. Um, and also too, I would love to see a lot of like really dope collaborations. I don't see like Christian collaborations between brands. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a competition thing or like what, but I would love to really, really see some super, super dope like collaborations between Christian brands and also with Christian creatives. I'm sure, I know there's a whole bunch of Christian videographers and photographers who have really, really dope ideas and aesthetics, but maybe people just aren't aware of who they are. And so I would love for Christian brands to find other Christian creatives that are outside of the fashion industry and pull them in and say, hey, let's create something dope. Let's create something amazing. Let's operate in a level of excellence that these other brands and the culture are doing and they're creating. So I think for 2022, I would love to see a lot more collaboration, myself included. I have like some brands that I hope to collaborate with in 2022, but doing it in a level where it rivals, some of these bigger brands that are out in the culture. So I would definitely say collaboration would be really, really dope.
Most definitely. You think the neighborhood and God is dope gonna come up and be like, listen,
Oh, I don't know. That's a big one. That's a big,
good
I
though.
don't know. I don't know. That would be a dope one. I think a dope one. I'm actually really good friends with Philip Bowles, with Sailor Clothing Co.
Yeah.
We're actually pretty good friends. We play basketball all the time. I would love to possibly do something together with that. I'm a really big fan of Pedro Tuma with Friends and Family. That would be a super, super dope collaboration as well. So I don't know. We'll see. The Lord's really been touching the brand lately and really opening doors. So we'll see what happens.
So the neighborhood, like, what's coming out 2022? What's coming up next for just the neighborhood in general? You got some new colors coming. Are you deleted everything off of Instagram? Why is that?
Yeah, so I'm starting fresh. So on my personal page, I deleted everything off the page. I'm really starting fresh. Again, for myself personally, I'm taking a step back and saying, okay, for myself, what am I wanting to communicate to people? What do I want people to see and feel, even when they come across my page and when they come across who I am personally? I really want them. I don't want it to just be Instagram for the sake of Instagram, where I just post stuff on there. And I don't know, I really don't want it to be about me. I really want it to be about more than me. So I understand that the Lord has to work through me, so I'll be on my page, but I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it all out with that. But as far as the neighborhood, again, I really hope like some super dope collaborations would be dope. I've been thinking through possibly doing a pop-up shop for our 1 year that's going to be in April. So just a whole bunch of different just floating ideas in my head. Definitely a different spring and summer collection is going to be coming out in 2022. And that's all I got right now.
So Kendall, how can everybody find you on Instagram? You on TikTok, you on Twitter? What else can they find?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I'm only on Instagram right now. I think I'm gonna get into the TikTok space eventually. I don't know what it looks like for me at the moment, but yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Kendall Crute, KENDALLCRUTE, and then the brand page is at We the Neighborhood. So we'd love for you guys to follow.
And the website.
Oh, wetheneighborhood.com. Everything is sold out at the moment, but it is sold out at the moment, but we are coming back with bigger and better. I'm really, really excited for this year.
So do you get everything from a print shop, or do you do it yourself, just straight up?
So it depends. It goes through different avenues. There's times where I may try to do it myself, and then for bigger orders, I will go to a different print shop. Again, I've luckily been blessed with some awesome people on the team who they really help out and facilitate some of this stuff as well. So it kind of goes different avenues depending on what's needed at the time.
That's what's up. Well, Kendall, thank you for being on the show. Like, I really do appreciate it. It was a little hit and miss. I was like, all right, now I wonder if he gonna say something back. So I'm glad you're responding creative.
Yeah, I am. I think it was in the requested, so like I didn't come across it in the beginning. But once I seen it, I was like, yo, no, this would be super, super dope. So it's really crazy because I think you hit me up, and then right after you hit me up, one of my friends hit me up. He has a really dope podcast as well. And so these are like my first 2 podcast interviews for the brand. So yeah, I think 2022 is going to be crazy for the neighborhood. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Most definitely. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Since I changed to be creative, and that's why we're created. Yeah, that's why we're created.